In the middle of the 16th century, an unusual project was underway in Moscow that still inspires secret awe among historians and mystery seekers. Ivan IV Vasilyevich, known as Ivan the Terrible, not only ruled a vast country, but also became a passionate collector of ancient books. His goal seemed both ambitious and mysterious: to gather hundreds of manuscripts from the ancient world in one place, turning the capital into a center of learning and culture. This library, about which little is known, but which, according to rumors, held knowledge capable of changing the course of history, became a legend. Surviving documents report that Ivan the Terrible collected manuscripts from the farthest corners of Europe and Asia. His court lists mention ancient Greek philosophers, Roman historians, and Eastern scholars. The authorities of the time often did not understand why the Tsar needed such a collection. Many believed that books were merely a means of strengthening his authority, but modern researchers tend to see this as an attempt to combine spiritual heritage with state power. The library was to become a symbol of a new era, when Russia would rise to the level of European cultural and scientific centers. The historical context of the time pushed Vasily Ivanovich to accumulate knowledge. Russia was going through a turning point when science and education were rapidly developing in the West, and adapting these achievements seemed necessary for survival. The library did not simply collect books. It contained manuscripts with handwritten comments, unique notes by scientists, and previously unknown treatises on philosophy, medicine, and astronomy. Each volume became a link between the past and the future of the kingdom, preserving lost knowledge and searching for new meanings. The growing collection was valued not only for the value of its contents. The very existence of such a library reflected the character of Ivan the Terrible himself. His ambiguous personality combined cruelty with a passion for culture. Many of his contemporaries described him as a man with a deep inner world who, in his pursuit of knowledge, sought answers to questions that went beyond the realm of ordinary politics. That is why libraries were given special attention in the palace, where books were valued almost as highly as treasures. However, against the backdrop of the numerous fates of those ancient manuscripts, an even more intriguing detail emerges. After the king's death, the library mysteriously disappeared. The archives and lists indicating its location seem to have been erased from the memory of time. Many historians have suggested that part of the collection was lost in fires or looting, but its complete disappearance raises questions. It is said that the manuscripts could have been secretly moved to the Kremlin's fortifications and walled up in its dungeons. This rumor fuels interest in mysticism and various conspiracy theories, as the Kremlin was originally conceived not only as a political center, but also as a temple of knowledge. The significance of the library goes beyond a simple historical assessment. In those years, Russia was trying to find its way between European enlightenment and its own traditions. Ivan the Terrible's library could have been the first step towards the creation of a national scientific school, a bridge between the West and the East. The uniqueness of this collection lay in the fact that it was not limited to religious texts or chronicles. It included works on astronomy, geography, and medicine, which spoke of a desire to understand the world in a broad sense. Particular attention should be paid to how the collection was assembled. Notes from travelers and diplomats of the time have been preserved, telling of the mysterious journeys of the Tsar's envoys abroad. The next chapter will lift the veil on the secrets of the searches and discoveries that changed the course of history and the fate of entire generations. There are many versions and rumors about the fate of Ivan the Terrible's famous library, which contained hundreds of rare manuscripts from the ancient world. According to one of the most popular legends, the extensive collection of books was not simply lost, but deliberately hidden in secret underground chambers beneath the Kremlin. This theory seems incredible, but it is not without foundation, as there are stories passed down from generation to generation that the ancient scrolls still lie in the depths of the Moscow fortress. Historians and mystery lovers have long been trying to discern the truth through layers of mysticism. Some claim that Ivan the Terrible, fearing for the safety of the precious manuscripts, ordered the library to be hidden away to protect it from external threats and internal turmoil. Others speculate that after his death, the books were moved or destroyed, but the full list of their fates remains unclear. Legends are filled with details that are confused with real facts, creating a mystical aura around the disappearance of the treasures. One of the key arguments in support of the theory of the walled-up treasure chamber are the stories of old Moscow residents, passed down from mouth to mouth for several centuries. They say that the Kremlin's underground chambers conceal more than just architectural secrets, and that a priceless literary heritage is hidden among them. These rumors are supported by references in archival documents describing unusual construction work and mysterious restrictions on access to certain parts of the fortress. However, there is still no evidence of the library's existence. In literature and art, the theme of the lost library often pops up in the most unexpected places. Writers and artists are inspired by legends and create images of mysterious halls, shrouded in darkness and surrounded by secret passages. In such works, Ivan the Terrible appears not only as a cruel czar, but also as the keeper of forbidden knowledge, who may have known secrets that changed the course of history. Such stories fuel public interest and give rise to new speculations about where the manuscripts might actually be. Nevertheless, skeptics point to the lack of archaeological finds confirming the existence of an underground library. They remind us that many legends arise from a desire to explain the inexplicable and often do not stand up to rigorous scrutiny. Perhaps part of the library was simply lost during the numerous wars and fires that repeatedly destroyed Moscow, destroying valuable archives and buildings. In this case, our expectations are based more on myths than on historical reality. It is well known that historical documents about the library are often incomplete and confusing. Much depends on the interpretations and research of various scholars, which sometimes lead to diametrically opposed conclusions. One 17th century archival report mentions the transfer of part of the collection to private collections of boyars and the czarist nobility, which calls into question the integrity and location of the library itself. However, even this version does not rule out the possibility of the mysterious burial of the main part of the books in the depths of the Kremlin, since the safety and preservation of books was a priority for the Tsar. The library's association with mysticism is complemented by numerous stories about mysterious signs and symbols allegedly left by the builders of the Kremlin. These signs supposedly indicate secret passages and hidden rooms. Despite the lack of documentary evidence, they maintain an atmosphere of mystery and attract adventure seekers and researchers who dream of unraveling the mystery. Some of them even claim that they tried to penetrate the closed parts of the Kremlin in order to find traces of the library, but without success. It is important to understand that the fate of the library remains one of the most intriguing historical puzzles. Even centuries later, many theories continue to develop around it, ranging from purely documentary research to mystical assumptions. The memory of it lives on not only in museums and archives, but also in the collective imagination of the people, who continue to hope that one day this lost treasure trove will be found and returned to society. This is not only of historical value, but also a cultural heritage that can open new horizons for understanding the past. However, further research and the opening of archives are needed to make progress in solving the mystery. Modern technologies, including scanning and studying underground structures with special instruments, allow us to get closer to these secrets, leaving room for intrigue and awaiting new discoveries. Perhaps in the near future, we will learn the truth about where exactly Tsar Ivan's manuscripts disappeared, and whether the library was really walled up, as legend has it. This mystery remains unsolved and will continue to intrigue researchers. The next chapter will immerse us in the details of the most famous artifacts found that may have been directly related to the library. We will examine historical finds, preserved manuscripts, and attempts to restore lost texts in order to understand how large Ivan the Terrible's literary collection really was, and what role it could have played in Russian history. This information will help us form a more complete picture and draw new conclusions in the search for the long-awaited library. The modern search for Ivan the Terrible's library is a complex intertwining of science, history, and archaeology, where every discovery has the potential to reveal the secrets of the past. Since the mid-20th century, scientists, historians, and archaeologists have been systematically applying advanced methods in an effort to find even the slightest traces of the Tsar's numerous manuscripts. Particular attention is being paid to comprehensive research of the Moscow Kremlin, where, according to legend, the library is supposedly walled up. The use of ground-penetrating radar, magnetic scanners, and other non-invasive technologies has made it possible to significantly narrow down the search areas and identify potential voids in the thickness of the walls. Archaeologists working in the depths of the Kremlin structures are faced with unique historical layers and numerous reconstructions that complicate the task. Among the researchers, Olga Petrovna, a candidate of historical sciences who has devoted decades to studying this phenomenon, stands out. Her research team has discovered anomalies in the underground structures that could be interpreted as hidden chambers or storage rooms, but no definitive confirmation of a connection to the library has yet been obtained. Nevertheless, these results are impressive and open up new avenues for future excavations. Historical archives contain rare references to Ivan IV collecting a collection of rare documents, including not only ancient Greek manuscripts, but also manuscripts from Byzantium and the East. However, a large amount of material may have been removed from the capital during the time of troubles, or lost in fires and wars. All this complicates the search, as traces of the library may have been deliberately destroyed or scattered for preservation. Today, historians are trying to trace the chain of movements of the books, using not only written sources, but also comparative analysis methods. The search is being conducted not only inside the Kremlin, but also in the surrounding area, where lost warehouses or hiding places may be located. There is a known example of excavations on the territory of former monasteries, where ancient parchments with unusual signs, possibly related to Ivan the Terrible's collection, are sometimes found. Archaeologists note that technologies for processing ancient texts using ultraviolet light and spectrometry make it possible to detect hidden inscriptions and identify materials that were previously impossible to decipher. Such progress gives hope for further revelations. Moreover, the scientific community is actively exchanging data with international colleagues. Countries with ancient libraries and manuscripts participate in joint conferences to discuss methods for preserving and identifying manuscripts. It has been established that many ancient books contain similar features in their bindings and ink, which may help determine the origin of the materials if at least fragments of Ivan the Terrible's library can be found. Thus, an interdisciplinary approach plays a crucial role in the search. A special place in the research is given to the study of legends and mystical stories surrounding the library. Some believe that the Tsar deliberately shrouded his collection in secrecy to protect it from enemies. There are hypotheses about the library's connection to ancient occult knowledge and secret societies, which only adds to the mystique of the process. Although historians urge caution and rely on facts, it cannot be ruled out that part of the library may have been hidden in hard-to-reach places in the Kremlin using secret passages and mechanisms, traces of which have yet to be discovered. In recent years, scientific interest in the site has grown significantly thanks to publications and television programs devoted to the mysteries of Russian history. The authorities are allocating funds for excavations and research, which allows for more extensive expeditions. At the same time, the number of enthusiasts who are independently searching through archives and old documents is growing. This public involvement creates a favorable atmosphere for new discoveries and revives discussions about the fate of the library. Nevertheless, despite all efforts, the main mystery remains unsolved. The lack of clear material evidence is forcing scientists to look for new approaches and technologies. Perhaps the key to the mystery lies in a combination of traditional historical methods and modern technical innovations. It is important to emphasize that the search continues not only in physical terms, but also in terms of analyzing the available data, where each fact is carefully checked and compared with the general context of the era. Thus, scientific research and archaeological investigations surrounding Ivan the Terrible's library demonstrate humanity's desire to preserve and understand its cultural heritage. The combined efforts of many specialists from different fields give us hope that one day the mystery will be solved. In the meantime, the mystery of the manuscripts and their whereabouts continues to attract the attention of researchers and history enthusiasts, inspiring new discoveries and reflections on the fate of the great collection of the Russian Tsar. The next stage of our story will reveal more mystical versions of the library's disappearance, hidden in legends and rumors that have stirred the imagination for centuries. Perhaps it is the mystical aura surrounding the disappearance of Ivan the Terrible's library that has given rise to so many fascinating conspiracy theories, making this story so appealing to the mind and imagination. Over the centuries, rumors about the fate of this unique collection of manuscripts have circulated in various versions, sometimes fantastic, sometimes frightening, but always captivating the hearts of those who crave answers. Some claim that the imperial books were stolen by conspirators, seeking to hide the truth about the past from the world, while others insist that they were mysteriously destroyed or hidden in the depths of the Moscow Kremlin. All these theories attract attention and give rise to an impressive mosaic of assumptions, where plausibility is closely intertwined with imagination. For example, there is a widespread rumor that the library is walled up in the underground passages of the Kremlin, as if in a kind of repository of secrets and mysteries, carefully guarded for centuries. This hypothesis is supported not only by legends about complex labyrinths, but also by strange finds by archaeologists who stumbled upon hidden chambers and sealed doors, which officially remain off-limits for discussion. This raises new questions. Do these hiding places really exist? And was the library collected by Ivan the Terrible truly as large as they say? At the same time, we must not forget the realistic assumptions that are often overlooked amid large-scale speculation. Modern historians tend to believe that the library could have simply been scattered in the whirlwind of historical storms, wars, fires, forgetfulness, and looting, all of which would explain the disappearance of hundreds of ancient manuscripts. There are also opinions that part of the collection survived and was secretly taken out of Russia, ending up in private hands or library collections in Europe. But no evidence has been found to support this hypothesis. The reason for this uncertainty lies in the lack of accurate documents and archives that could shed light on the fate of the library. Special attention is drawn to stories about people who were allegedly privy to Ivan the Terrible's secret. One of the most famous characters is the boyar Malyuta Skuratov, a close associate of the Tsar and a man with a grim reputation. According to one version, it was he who controlled the storage of the library's treasures and participated in their transfer to secret vaults in the Kremlin. There are speculations that, due to his cruelty and cunning, Malyuta could have been involved in the intrigue surrounding the disappearance of important documents. Again, such stories add to the gloomy background, but are not confirmed by hard facts, becoming part of a mystical tradition rather than a reliable chronicle. No less curious is the influence of the religious and political context of the time on the fate of the library. Some conspiracy theories link the disappearance of the readings to the struggle for power within the Russian kingdom, especially during the period of the Oprichnina, when Ivan the Terrible took drastic and often brutal measures to strengthen his influence. Many argue that the manuscripts may have contained information dangerous to the Tsar or the Tsarist regime, so certain circles sought to destroy or hide these materials to prevent them from causing unrest or criticism. This version, despite its appeal, requires a delicate approach to historical sources and careful verification. In addition, there is an unprecedented magical aura surrounding the library due to the interest in alchemy, mysticism, and the occult sciences that found supporters at the court of Ivan the Terrible. Were the ancient manuscripts filled with secret knowledge capable of changing the course of history? Such assumptions add intrigue and mystery to the versions, in which darkness and light intersect in a struggle for power. Sometimes such ideas seem too fantastic, but their appeal lies in the combination of complex historical realities with the idea of hidden knowledge that could overturn our usual view of the past. It is important to remember that with the development of technology and a new round of historical research, much may yet be clarified, and perhaps the mystery of the library will one day be revealed. But even now, we can say with confidence that the disappearance of the collection sparked a surge of imagination and gave rise to a variety of mystical assumptions and conspiracy theories which, despite the lack of direct evidence, helped to keep alive interest in this mysterious phenomenon. History is full of mysteries, and it is the combination of facts and assumptions that creates a unique atmosphere in which the reader can feel the breath of the past. Therefore, it is important to remain cautious and not confuse facts with fiction, especially in historical research related to such a complex and significant topic. The truth is usually more modest and less dramatic than rumors and legends, but it is the complexity of these stories that creates a truly vivid and exciting picture. A practical approach based on documentary evidence and objective analysis helps to weed out fantasy and understand why such different and sometimes contradictory versions of the disappearance of Ivan the Terrible's library have emerged. It is equally important to understand that each theory reflects the social and cultural context of its time. Some of them arose during a period of powerful change and uncertainty, when the past was perceived as a treasure trove of ancient secrets and books, as repositories of knowledge and power. This gave rise to myths that emphasized the depth and importance of the collection for the Russian state, and at the same time hinted at its potential danger, being hidden from prying eyes. This echoes the eternal human desire to unravel the unknown and search for hidden truths. Ultimately, understanding the historical and mystical aspects surrounding Ivan the Terrible's library leads us to realize the importance of combining meticulous study of the facts with respect for the cultural layers of myths. It is this duality that gives the event its mystery, which is impossible to look away from. Having sorted this out, we can move on and study the real traces of the library left in chronicles, archives, and the memory of generations to get closer to the answer and better understand one of the most exciting mysteries of our history. This brings us smoothly to the next stage, where we will discuss specific findings and evidence that may shed light on the fate of the great Tsarist collection. Russian history has seen one of its most mysterious losses, which still raises questions among historians and mystery lovers. Ivan the Terrible's library, assembled in Moscow under the patronage of the Moscow Tsar, contained treasures of knowledge from the ancient world, hundreds of manuscripts, many of which were unique. This collection could have opened up new horizons in the understanding of ancient cultures and laid the foundation for the development of science and culture in the country for many centuries to come. However, the fate of this amazing library turned out to be tragic. The collection of priceless works disappeared without a trace. The loss of such a significant part of the cultural heritage had a profound impact on the development of Russian science. At that time, Russia was developing rapidly, and access to ancient knowledge would have allowed it to reach a new level of understanding of the world, medicine, philosophy, and natural science. One can only imagine what scientific progress would have been like if this treasure trove of wisdom had been preserved and fully utilized. Imagine if the works of ancient thinkers had not only been preserved, but also studied by Russian scientists. It was these missions that made it possible to find and acquire rare manuscripts that could have been kept in European monasteries or closed Arab libraries. Each book bore the imprint of centuries and cultures, and in Moscow, it took on new meaning and significance. Ivan the Terrible, apparently, saw in this not only a state benefit, but also a mission to preserve wisdom. Interestingly, in addition to official sources, there are stories passed down from generation to generation in folklore, that this library was shrouded in mystery and guarded not only by bodyguards, but also by hidden traps. Some claim that the books were protected by spells and codes that could destroy an unprepared reader or make it impossible to access the pages of knowledge. Perhaps this legend reflected a fear of losing information that could threaten the king's power. The significance of the library goes far beyond historical chronicles. It became a symbol of an eternal mystery that reflects how people seek meaning and knowledge in the chaos of political change. Ivan the Terrible created not just a collection of books, but a cultural code that was supposed to be the key to understanding the world. That is why so much effort is being put into finding its remains today. This search is reminiscent of ancient expeditions to forgotten worlds, full of mysteries and vague hopes. Reflecting on the fate of the library makes us think about the fragility of history and memory. Why did a collection that could have served as the foundation for the greatest discoveries disappear? The answers to this question are hidden in the past, but perhaps the search for them will lead to new discoveries that will change our understanding of how Russian culture developed. Centuries later, Ivan the Terrible's library remains a bridge between the past and the present, beckoning researchers and dreamers alike. It could have changed the fate of the country and the whole world. That is why not only historians, but also ordinary people continue to speculate to this day. Many rumors and legends have sprung up around the disappearance of the library. One of the most widespread legends says that the treasures of knowledge were hidden or walled up under the Kremlin. This idea has caused much debate, because if the knowledge were really accessible, it would be possible to shed light on the mysteries of the past that remain enigmatic to this day. There are theories that the statesmen of the time deliberately hid the library in order to maintain power or avoid external influences that limited cultural development. The loss of the library can be compared to the loss of part of the soul of a nation. Power and culture are closely intertwined, and the lack of access to ancient knowledge played a role in slowing down cultural renewal. Imagine a huge labyrinth of knowledge that opened up to researchers but was suddenly closed, hiding secrets that could have inspired entire generations. This undoubtedly left its mark on both literature and philosophical views, limiting the development of new trends and ideas in society. It is worth noting that some scholars believe that if the library had not disappeared, Russia would most likely have become one of the centers of world cultural and scientific development much earlier. At that time, Europe was just beginning to study the achievements of antiquity, and Russia had a unique chance to avoid a 1,000-year lag in scientific discoveries and technological progress. Whether to believe the rumors about the walled-up library is a personal matter, but the very idea of lost knowledge under the Kremlin stirs the imagination and prompts a search for the truth. The impact of the library's disappearance is still felt today. Despite considerable successes in culture and science, Russia is still striving to make up for the loss of an entire epoch-making heritage. Many contemporary projects aimed at preserving and restoring historical documents are marked by this unfulfilled dream. The line between former greatness and current achievements seems as thin as a reflection in water, constantly being washed away by the winds of oblivion. But the spirit of exploration and the desire to recover what has been lost are alive and well, motivating new generations of historians and archaeologists. It is the investigation of this mystery that makes us think not only about the past, but also about the future. What would our society be like if we had been able to preserve and pass on the knowledge of our fathers and grandfathers to future generations. Perhaps the answers to many of today's questions were hidden in books that no longer exist. This loss reminds us of the value of time and our responsibility for the legacy we leave to those who come after us. The memory of Ivan the Terrible's library is more than just lost books. It is a symbol of the human thirst for knowledge and the danger that oblivion holds. Our ancestors did everything they could to preserve precious manuscripts, but the tide of history had a devastating effect. Nevertheless, the mystery of the library lives on and inspires to this day, and the search for truth has become part of the cultural code not only of Russia, but of the entire world. Concluding this chapter of reflections on how the lost library has influenced the present day, we cannot fail to acknowledge that each new step in research brings us closer to understanding this great legacy. That is why it is worth continuing the search and not stopping at what has already been achieved. How this search is connected to other historical mysteries and what lies hidden in the depths of time, we will find out in the next part of our story. In the next section, we will delve deeper into the mysterious circumstances surrounding the library's disappearance and examine the versions of events offered by historians and the legends that surround this phenomenon. What exactly happened to the manuscripts, and how did it change the course of history? The next story, full of mysteries and unanswered questions, will tell you all about it. It is behind this veil that the origins of the real mystery of the Tsar's library lie. 17th century Moscow holds many secrets, but one of them particularly fascinates historians and mystery lovers: the fate of Ivan the Terrible's legendary library. According to legend, the Tsar collected hundreds of unique manuscripts from the ancient world and kept them in the Kremlin. But where exactly could this treasure trove of knowledge have been located? We seek the answer by studying the architecture and archaeological finds of those times. The Kremlin has always been not only the residence of Moscow princes and czars, but also a complex fortress with many secret passages, cellars, and hidden rooms. Modern research by architects and historians shows that as early as the 16th century, the Kremlin's underground system may have included chambers little known to the general public. One of the first suspects in the possible location of the library is the so-called secret chamber of the burial chambers, a room located below the level of the fortress walls. Archaeological excavations in this area have repeatedly uncovered traces of ancient structures and tunnels, fueling legends about a secret repository of valuable books. However, the work has been hampered by numerous reconstructions of the Kremlin and periodic repairs, making it difficult to accurately determine the original condition of the underground passages. Some scholars believe that these cellars served more as storage rooms, but documents from the time of Ivan the Terrible hint at a more complex storage system. Interestingly, 16th century chronicles mention a whole complex of rooms known as the secret chambers, to which only those close to the Tsar were allowed access. Some historians link this to a library, claiming that it was there that the Tsar's magnates maintained secret access to manuscripts. Unfortunately, only fragmentary information about the size and location of these chambers has survived, so it is not easy to determine their exact location. Expeditions aimed at exploring the underground passages around the Kremlin occasionally discover mysterious rooms that have been sealed or bricked up. Among them is the so-called White Pantry, mentioned in 17th century documents as the place where a special collection of books and scrolls was kept. Unfortunately, there is no direct evidence that this storeroom was part of Ivan the Terrible's library, but we can guess that the Tsar needed to keep his treasures in a safe place, hidden from the eyes of envious people and enemies. At one time, the remains of an ancient library were discovered not far from the Kremlin, which was mentioned by the famous chronicler Sylvester Medvedev. According to him, Ivan Vasilievich took great care to protect the books, hiding them from falling into the wrong hands. Some researchers suggest that the library was based on collections brought from Byzantium, which could have preserved knowledge lost in Europe due to destruction and wars. Another version is connected with the Archangel Cathedral and its underground chambers. According to some experts, the cathedral could have housed the king's repository of ancient manuscripts. This theory is supported by the cathedral's location within the Kremlin and its significance as the spiritual center of the state. It is possible that part of the library was kept there, and access to it was strictly limited. However, archaeological data does not confirm the existence of a large collection of books in this particular place. We should not forget the legends spread by local residents and secret societies. According to one of them, the library was not simply hidden, but walled up deep underground in one of the secret chambers, access to which was known only to the Tsar and his most trusted people. This idea was reflected in mystical tales of mysterious signs and strange rituals that could serve as the key to the treasures. Although there is no official confirmation of such stories, interest in them continues unabated. The underground passages in the Kremlin have been explored by specialists trying to find traces of ancient hiding places. During the work, hidden doorways and sealed arches were discovered, suggesting the existence of rooms for which no official documents have survived. If the library was walled up, it may be hidden there. Unfortunately, the complexity and danger of the excavations do not allow for a complete study of every meter of the underground passages. Architectural data is supplemented by evidence from chronicles, which mention the Tsar's personal involvement in the organization and protection of the library. Ivan IV was a man with an unusual character and strict rules, which may explain his desire to hide his collections from outsiders. Nevertheless, it is clear that the library remained one of the most important cultural centers of Moscow, if not the entire state, and its disappearance raised many questions. Some researchers believe that the disappearance of the library is connected with the complicated political situation of the 17th century. During the period of turmoil and war, many archives and treasures were hidden or destroyed. Perhaps, when the government changed, the repository was hidden to avoid looting. This scenario is supported by historical facts of bloody conflicts within the Muscovite state, during which many cultural treasures could have been lost. Another hypothesis suggests that the library may have been divided into several parts and hidden in different places in the Kremlin and its surroundings. This explains why the complete set of manuscripts has not been found to this day. A systematic search in all parts of the fortress is difficult due to dense construction and ongoing restoration work, but interest in this issue remains. The memory of the library lives on in legends and documentary evidence. The use of modern technology is also providing new data. Scanning and ground-penetrating radar surveys allow us to see hidden cavities under the Kremlin. The results of such surveys raise questions about what exactly is hidden in the depths of the fortress. Perhaps among the secret chambers are the very rooms where the Tsar kept his treasures. But to prove this, long and detailed research is needed. Despite all the mysteries, we must not forget that Ivan the Terrible's library reflects the desire of that time to preserve knowledge and the authority of the Tsar. The careful concealment of the books speaks to an understanding of their value and the need to protect them. Stories about walled-up books fuel our imagination and make us wonder about the secrets of ancient Moscow that are still waiting to be revealed. That is why studying the possible locations of the library is not just an archaeological task, but a real adventure. Each new discovery, each legend brings us closer to understanding what could have been the most significant cultural achievement of Ivan the Terrible's era. As we move forward, we gradually reveal not only the historical, but also the mystical facets of this enigmatic phenomenon, opening a window into a forgotten past. The next chapter will immerse us in the investigation of the secret stories associated with the fate of individual manuscripts from this great library. At the end of the 16th century, Moscow was a cultural oasis, at the heart of which Sergius of Radonej and Ivan the Terrible created a veritable treasure trove of knowledge. It was Tsar Ivan IV, known as Ivan the Terrible, who assembled a unique library consisting of hundreds of ancient manuscripts from the ancient world. This collection was not just a set of books, but a symbol of power and wisdom, ambitiously gathered in one place. But here's the mystery. Over time, the library seemed to be forgotten, and it disappeared, leaving behind only whispers of legends and speculation. Researchers still argue about the reasons for the library's disappearance. Official chronicles are silent, and rumors spread with incredible speed. Some claim that the collection was simply lost due to negligence or unforeseen circumstances. Perhaps the difficult times that Russia experienced in the late 16th and early 17th centuries played a fatal role. Wars, turmoil, and fires could have destroyed or ruined the valuable volumes. However, this version seems too simple, given the scale and value of the collection. There is a theory that the library may have been deliberately hidden or even walled up under the Kremlin. According to some legends, Ivan the Terrible feared that the knowledge contained in the collection could threaten his power or fall into the hands of his enemies. That is why some of the books may have been hidden in the secret dungeons of the fortress in order to preserve them for posterity or protect them from looting. This hypothesis is supported by the fact that there are still unexplored rooms and tunnels in the Moscow Kremlin that no one has thoroughly investigated. Another mysterious version is the political motive behind the library's disappearance. The period after the death of Ivan the Terrible was marked by a struggle for power between boyar families, accompanied by the purging and destruction of rivals. Perhaps the library fell victim to these intrigues. The manuscripts could have been destroyed or hidden to deprive opponents of sources of influence and support. Historical documents show that new rulers did not always share the interests and aspirations of their predecessors, thereby allowing the loss of cultural heritage. Some researchers draw attention to the mysterious circumstances surrounding the collection of the library itself. Ivan the Terrible was an extraordinary man, and rumors circulated about his mystical rituals and connections to secret societies. Perhaps some of the philosophy and knowledge contained in the manuscripts were esoteric in nature and not understood by all of his contemporaries. This may have contributed to the decision to hide or deliberately destroy the library in order to prevent the spread of dangerous knowledge that could undermine the foundations of the state. Unfortunately, No direct evidence of the library's fate has ever been found. The archives of the 17th century contain only fragmentary references to the Tsar's collection without detailed descriptions. Some chronicles point to the reshuffling and intertwining of state affairs, which distracted attention from the preservation of cultural treasures. It is known that Moscow was undergoing complex changes at that time, and the secrets of the Tsar's library could have been consigned to oblivion for the sake of survival and consolidation of power. Over the centuries, interest in Ivan the Terrible's library has not waned. Archaeologists and historians are trying to uncover the mystery by exploring the Kremlin's underground passages and carefully studying documents that could shed light on the fate of the manuscripts. One of the most intriguing theories is that the collection is located in a hidden repository, where access is guarded by mysterious mechanisms and hidden traps. These assumptions are fueled by mysterious finds and eyewitness accounts, which have sometimes been perceived as myths or fantasies. No less mysterious is the personality of Ivan the Terrible himself, a man whose life was intertwined with contradictions and secrets. His desire for absolute power was combined with a deep interest in knowledge and mysticism. Perhaps the Tsar understood the importance of his library as a secret legacy that could change the world. That is why, after his death, a brief period of turmoil led to the disappearance of valuable volumes, as if a part of his soul and legacy had disappeared with them. We cannot rule out the possibility that the library was divided and lost during numerous conflicts and changes of power. The wars of the time of troubles destroyed not only cities and people's lives, but also archives, hiding places, and works of art. The enemy could have seized part of the collection, contributing to its disappearance without a trace. Nevertheless, legends about secret vaults under the Kremlin continue to haunt modern researchers who are convinced that there is more than one mystery surrounding these centuries-old manuscripts. Thus, the fate of Ivan the Terrible's library is shrouded in a multitude of assumptions and theories, ranging from simple loss to intricate political conspiracies. Every theory has a right to exist, because the circumstances of the disappearance are incredibly complex and multifaceted. Without accurate historical evidence, it is really difficult to solve this mystery, but that is precisely what makes it so appealing to the minds and hearts of everyone who seeks to understand the fate of this great cultural heritage. Ahead of us lies the revelation of mysteries that will help us get closer to the truth about the ancient treasures buried in the ground of the Moscow Kremlin and the significance they could have had for the history and future of the country.